Started. Before you should have a printout, right, of some of the material.
So should we introduce ourselves so that people who don't know us?
All right, I'm Sal Pasquarello, I'm superintendent.
I'm Ed Aram, the interim director of finance.
Greg Middleton, interested citizen.
Sharon DeCenzio, parent.
Cindy Garnett, parent.
Joyce Emmett, Director of Special Services.
I'm Sadi, City Councilman.
I'm Margaret Darn.
Monica Bevilacqua, Head Start Director.
I'm Kara Watson-Lazar, the Education and Mental Health Manager for Head Start.
Sandy Stuyvesant, parent and board member.
I am Kathy Molinaro, Board of Ed.
Bob Caverson, Board of Ed.
The purpose of this morning was to talk informally because sometimes at board meetings and at hearings we can't do that. But I want to start with the end in mind. The process is for Monday night to have a conversation at the board level to actually approve a budget that we're going to move to the mayor, which is due by midweek, correct? Wednesday. At that point, we've already been contacted by the city council. There's a subcommittee of city council. I don't know if Tom is on that group.
I am not.
No. How many are on that usually?
I believe it's 5. And I think,
5?
Fred Visconti from the Democratic Caucus is at least one of the members who are on it. I don't know the other 4 offhand.
Yeah, there've been members at the at our meetings. Rather than I'm trying to think who may be in charge.
Colleen
Stanley, I think, has been in charge of it.
They generally tend to keep the same ones, so there's some level of continuity and historical knowledge from year to year.
Laura, come on up front. Laura's a teacher, me, and a parent. Come on up, please. Or a teacher. And so we'll meet with the, hi Bill, we'll meet with with that group 2 or 3 times. And then the mayor does a presentation to the council regarding the entire city budget, of which we're part of. At that point, that happens, I think, sometime the first week in, someone help me out, is it April? May.
At the end of May.
The first week of May, end of April.
The presentation?
The one where the mayor approves the budget that we get.
That's in May. He presents the overall budget to us in April. We have our public hearings, and then May 15th is the deadline for the city council to approve the budget or disapprove.
So it'll be 2 meetings, 2 or 3 meetings of the general council. And at that point, we'll get a budget, and that's what we have to then do. That's our budget for the year, just so we know how it goes. We also have a meeting Monday morning at 7:45, which is a subcommittee of the board to talk about the budget itself. And then for a presentation, as I said, this Monday. That's the process. Bill?
Pardon?
Bill Glass.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bill Glass, Deputy Superintendent.
Me?
I
Kathy
did.
Snow.
We just went around.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. I'm Kathy Snow, parent.
And you are?
Kate Thompson, the HR Director.
And this little one around.
I'm the coffee room. Sorry.
I was going to go. I'm Gary Falkenthal. I'm a parent, except my kids are in their 40s, so they're no longer applicable, and I'm just a Board of Ed member.
So one of the things that came up at a meeting, I think would be helpful for me, I had talked with Jim Loney, is the Head Start program, how the Head Start program works. the board has been looking at the last few years. We've done reorganization. Right or wrong or indifferent, but we've cut administrators and redistributed a lot of duties, eliminated programs. I got a call this morning, actually an email this morning, from a parent who was upset that the website was not, up to snuff, and it isn't. We used to have an intern actually doing that, and reducing secretaries and whatnot. Anybody doing stuff like that, so it's beginning to impact even at that level. We just don't have time to do that. That's happening in schools, that's happening in different ways, but we've pared down administratively and clerical-wise. The board's focus has been to keep teachers in the classroom, try to keep class sizes reasonable.
Jim, come to the table.
Joyce is here, she does our support services. We have IEP for youngsters that we honor, speech and occupational therapy. So the budget basically is going through looking at that. There are items in the budget that are really not the 8 to 3 budget. And the only thing that we have adult ed, which then we're required to offer adult ed programs under the compulsory law. So, and that is a grant that we receive from the state, it's a matching grant. And we co-op with about 6 other districts, and they pay us a tuition. And along with our local contributions, about $270, the other districts somewhere in the vicinity, I think about $120,000. It's based on students. We have about 1,200 students that participate. Most of them are our students, and then the rest of it's all grants, and that's how we run the program. But the only thing that we aren't would be Head Start. And someone says, well, what if we don't have Head Start? And what does that mean? So maybe we could talk a little bit about that. In our budget, there are 3 sources. One source is directly from our municipal taxes. Now it's been here as long as I've been here, Bill and Joyce, so it's been the standing operating procedure for this system and others that when it comes to education of youngsters that becomes the purview of the schools in terms of controlling curriculum. So therefore, Danbury, most of the money that's put in for the grants and the operation goes to teacher salaries. So that's where it goes. And then there's in-kind thing that we do with facilities and whatnot. So I'll let you talk about that. What if it would look like if that was removed, which is basically about $1.5 million. And our contribution is about 7, the grants is about 8, so so that's what you're looking at. If we remove the 7, you have 800,000. Not sure if you then get the grant. So maybe we could start with that. That was a question we had the other night. I didn't really have an answer. So however you want to go with it. Jim Mahoney is the director of the program.
Well, I'm the CEO of the agency. The director of the program is Monica Bevilacqua, who's here, who is an employee of the Connecticut Institute for Communities, and to her right is the education coordinator, Cara Watson-Wanzer, who is an employee of the Danbury Board of Education. The Head Start program is a program jointly run, and has been for 30 years, a jointly run program of the Head Start sponsor, which is now the Connecticut Institute for Communities, and the Danbury Board of Education, which has been the partner for this 30 years. At the forum on the budget the other night, several questions came up, and I took the opportunity to write, Joyce, if you just pass one down, that would be great on that side. If you want in mind, you can just pass one down. Yeah, sure. Okay. I took the opportunity to, ladies, how are you this morning? To respond to some of the items that were discussed. Let me start, however, with Dr. Sal's question this morning. If the Board of Ed decided not to support the Head Start program, no longer wanted to be the partner, what would happen is we would still have the $750,000 that we get from the feds and give to the board. That money would still exist, but of course the board's part wouldn't. And in effect, you would then be laying off half of your staff. The current staff in the Head Start program that are employees of the Board of Ed, and that's not everybody. The parent staff is employee of the Connecticut Institute. The classroom staff, mostly, not all, but mostly, are employees of the Board of Ed. And there are 14 classrooms that the board funds, and 2 staff people in each classroom, which is the required minimum for children 3 to 5 years of age, 1 for each 10 children, and there are 20 children in each classroom. So there are 28 classroom staff, Cara, 29, and 7 aides, what do you call them?
Program helpers.
Program helpers, right. They fill in when a teacher has to step out of the classroom to meet with a parent in the middle of the day, or use the facilities, or whatever the case may be. So there's a total of about 36 employees on the Board of Ed. If the Board of Ed stopped funding the program, in effect, half of those would be laid off. That would devastate the program. You know, half the staff. That would devastate the program. And secondly, it would devastate the board's employee relations. These are your employees, and you'd be laying half of them off. So that's the specific answer to the superintendent's question. In effect, that's the effect of losing 7 classrooms of Head Start. If I could, let me just take the opportunity to highlight some of the specifics. On Monday night, it was a great forum. The board did a great job. The mayor did a great job. The people in the audience did a wonderful job. But I had come actually as an observer. Teach me to come as an observer. So I didn't bring with me all of the statistics, but so I went back to the office and put the statistics together. And just to summarize, 14 classrooms that are funded by the board serve a total of 280 children, 20 in each classroom. At the current time, which is entirely typical, the Head Start program has 290 children enrolled from Danbury. So the board supports 280. The program has 290, which is actually 10 more children than slots assisted by the Board of Education. So there are other children in the program, but Danbury doesn't pay for the other children in the program, okay? So I just wanted to make that was a question that was raised. Whether
How
Danbury...
old are the children, so everybody knows?
Excuse me, sir?
The age.
Age 3 and 4. So they're preschool. This does not address the early Head Start program, which is 4 other classrooms. All the staff in the other classrooms, the early Head Start program, which is a new program, are Connecticut Institute employees. The board makes the classroom space available. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. But we, the staff, are the staff of the Connecticut Institute. So what I'm talking about here is the Head Start program, the preschool program, ages 3 and 4. Okay. Local support. Is Danbury unique? No, not even close. There are many towns around the state of Connecticut that make cash contributions, not only in kind, but cash contributions to their Head Start programs, including towns more economically challenged than Danbury, for example, Manchester, Enfield, and East Hartford. In fact, some local school systems take total responsibility with funding support for the whole program. In other words, they don't have a partner, they run it themselves, and they pay the freight, whatever it takes, including Naugatuck and New Haven. As I said, towns that are substantially more economically challenged than Danbury. Then I did an analysis of performance, and aside from some of the highlights are, of course, what I mentioned on Monday, the program got a perfect score. Monica, Cara, congratulations. These ladies are great ladies and do a wonderful job. Got a perfect score on the last federal review. I can't say congratulations too many times to them and to their staff and to your staff who work with them. In addition, I didn't mention on Monday that this year, for the first time, the feds also did what's called a classroom assessment scoring system, where they do basically teacher observations, classroom observations, as a part of their analysis. And they test 10 domains, and I'm not the educator, Cara and Monica are, and they can explain the details of the domains, but they're all the things you would look at in a classroom. Are kids learning instructional? Are the kids well behaved? Is the teacher sensitive? Is language modeling done? All those sort of 10 domains. On every single domain, this program, our program, your and our program, did much better than the national average. Okay? This is a really high quality Head Start program. And then you can see that in the children's results, their cognitive development. When kids come into the Head Start program, only 3 of 10 kids, 30%, 3 of 10, are at age level performance, 3 of 10. When they leave the Head Start program, 7 of 10 are at age level performance. All the kids have improved, but we've gone from 30% of at age level performance to 70% of age level performance. And then I put, I'm sorry, Monica?
That's above age
Above, yeah, at or above, that's correct, at or above. And then I asked Kara yesterday to give me, well, what's happening this year, and she broke it out for me in some detail, and you can see we have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. In September, just between September and the winter, the mid-year assessment, has been substantial progress. And you can see the 3-year-olds below age level, at age level, and above age level, and you can see just in that half-year period, pretty substantial progress. And then the last thing I just wanted to highlight was the school system impact. As I said Monday, this isn't just about what the Board of Ed or the City of Danbury does for Head Start. That's wonderful and much appreciated, but my father used to say, life is a two-way street. It's what the program does for the Board of Ed. And there are several things that are significant. By bringing all those kids up to age level performance, it cuts the cost to the Board of Education for supplemental assistance for language and math and all the reading and all the other things that otherwise you have to do. The 40% improvement from 30 to 70, 40% is about, well, it's roughly 200 kids. And those are 200 kids that otherwise would be a further economic drain on the Board of Education. The same thing is specifically true in regard to language. 80% of the kids coming into Head Start are ELL, English language learners, meaning that English is not the primary language at home. When they finish the Head Start program, more than half of those can function in an English language only class, no bilingual support, just as any other child does. Again, saving the Board of Education substantial resources. Thirdly, by these improvements in the performance of the kids, guess what? The whole system's class scores go up. Don't forget, we have Head Start alumni are now seniors in the high school. So they've been through, you've got Head Start kids in every single grade, roughly 300 in every single grade. They have been contributing to stronger scores in each school where we have issues, and in the district as a whole. I don't have a crystal ball, but my clear sense is that how schools do in scoring is going to be tied to economics. The money is going to follow the scores. And it's not going to follow it the way it used to, which is bad scores are more money. It's going to be the other way around. Good scores are more money or additional resources. And I think that's an important consideration. And then the last point, which in some ways is the most important, is that kids, again, I'm not the educator. I'm going to turn it over to Kara and Monica just to add any additional points. But the kids learn from their peers. And my wife's a teacher, so I get a little at work and I get a little at home about education. And Mary tells me all the time that a lot of the learning that goes on in the classroom is the kids learning from each other, doing projects together, reading together, writing paragraphs, revising each other's work, checking each other's math, doing all of that stuff. And guess what? The stronger the peers are in the classroom, the stronger the classroom does. So by improving the level of the performance of the Head Start kids, which are all coming to Danbury schools, very few of them go to Worcester, very few of them go to Canterbury, they come to the Danbury schools. the stronger that those Head Start kids are in those classrooms, the stronger the classroom is. The stronger that the child who isn't a Head Start kid does, because his peer in that classroom is stronger. Okay? So, all I can tell you is that we're very proud of the Head Start program. We're very proud of the role the Board of Education has played in the Head Start program. The Board of Ed has been a true supporter of Head Start in this community. The city has been a supporter. And I like to say sometimes you get what you pay for. And in terms of this Head Start program, the city of Danbury is getting what it pays for and then some by having one of the best Head Start programs in the country.
Jim, can I, before
Yeah.
you turn it over,
Sure.
can I ask you a question? I was sitting in the audience
Yes.
at Wednesday's
Yes.
board meeting, and so
Yes.
several parents posed a question to me that I
Sure,
couldn't answer.
sure.
You may or may not know, but part of the presentation on Wednesday were possible things that we could be cutting
Yes.
as part of our budget. And
Yes.
of course, Head Start was on it. What the parents asked...
So's math in the high school, but okay. All right.
But the question I couldn't answer that several parents posed to me, because they knew I was a member of
Right,
cabinet,
right.
is if we cut Head Start funding...
Yes.
Okay, so say we cut all the Head Start funding.
Yes.
So let's
Yes.
make the worst possible
Yes.
scenario.
Yes. Yes.
Are you saying that you will serve 280 less children?
I can't say that because I don't know how much you're going to cut. Okay.
But let's say, that's why I posed it,
Yeah.
worst possible
Yeah.
scenario.
Worst possible case. Worst possible case is, yes, you would lay off half of your Head Start staff, and that means 7 classrooms, and 7 classrooms means 140 kids. Now,
Okay, so then the Board of Ed contribution provides programming for 140 youngsters. That was the question.
Yeah, in effect it does. It's blended, so it actually provides half of the programming for 280 youngsters. But in effect, it's funding for 140 youngsters.
So the 280 is the sum total of all youngsters served, not just the ones that are served at...
No,
at
280 are the number of Danbury kids in Danbury classrooms. That's what you support.
In those classrooms, our Board of Ed employees.
But not like the St. Peter's?
No, that's not including, that's why I didn't
Okay,
include that.
that
Didn't
doesn't-
include
gotcha,
that.
that's what I wanted.
Right.
So-
We do have 4 other classrooms. We have 2 at St. Peter's and 2 at Laurel Gardens. They are in effect funded by the state and the federal government. State does put in some money. Some of the state money comes to the board as part of our total grant of about $750,000, which is about half your total cost.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask
Sure.
for just further clarification?
Yeah, sure.
Because I thought you said that the Board of Ed money
Yep.
is funding 14 classrooms. The Board of Ed money,
Yes.
total,
Yes.
is funding those 14
Yes.
classrooms,
Yes.
which is 280 students.
Yes, ma'am.
So this whole other pot of money
Yes.
is funding, where's that money going?
What other pot of money, I'm sorry?
Well,
From the state.
or...
Well, the
whatever.
state, as I said, part of the state money we get, we turn back over, just like the federal money, part of the federal money we get, we turn over to the Board of Ed. Head Start, however, is a family program. So the federal money and some of the state money is also used for our family advocates. We have a team of family advocates who work with the families. Every family, that's what Head Start is, not childcare. Head Start is education and family support, okay? So for example, every family in Head Start has a family plan where they sit down with their family advocate and work up, okay, what is the family need, not just what the child needs, what does the family need to do better? Maybe a parent needs to finish their GED or get an associate's degree, or just needs help finding employment or whatever, or might have drug abuse problems or substance abuse problems or whatever, or mental health issues, or again, whatever. And the goal of the family person is to make sure the family is getting other support from the community. The program also has a person who works specifically with children with special ed. 10% of the children in the program, including those inside the Danbury classrooms, 10% have to be children with special educational needs. And so we have a person who works on the special ed piece. The children and the families also have health issues as a health coordinator. So the balance of the funds that we do get, that we don't give to the Board of Ed, are used for those family services. And they are employees, as I said, of the Connecticut Institute, not the Board of Ed, and also go to support the other classrooms that we have.
What I think is a little confusing, and I just
okay.
want to clarify and correct me on the numbers if I'm wrong. The cost to the Board of Education is about 1.5 million.
No, the expense, they spend 1.5, we fund
give
about
back-
half of it,
So
right?
we give back, we pay the Board of Ed back about 750,000. So I think that's what's a little confusing.
Right.
The reason why the money comes to us because we have to pay the payrolls and the fringe benefits.
That's right.
So that's why the money flows through the grants and the board.
Yeah, I understand that. I just think that and believe me, I am an advocate for, a lot of this kind of stuff, but these are very desperate times. And so I think that we also need to know about what is being paid for as far as all these extra things, which sound fantastic, and it's great when are flush with money. But bottom line is there a way to have the Head Start program have these 280, 300 kids in classrooms and maybe then pare down on some of these extra things?
Yeah,
for
but that's the
families?
point, ma'am, they're not extra. That is what makes Head Start.
Required federally to have.
Right, yeah.
We have 2,300 performance standards that we have to maintain, and we are almost at a bare minimum of doing that. Our advocates have huge caseloads, and what they're doing is all required, and that's why we got a 100% score, because we're doing what is required.
Here's the dilemma. I'm with Cindy. I totally support these type of programs, and I know how important they are, but as a Board of Education member, we are responsible for over 10,000 students in our system. $700,000 or $750,000 is an enormous chunk out of our budget for students that are children in the community that are not in the school system K through 12. I understand the impact that, they get up to speed, but that is a lot of money for 280 students, and that's just the reality of it. And we have to really focus in these hard times on the other 10,000 plus students.
I certainly understand that point and that perspective. But I would say, first of all, those kids are your children too, okay? It's not like they're kids from Ridgefield. They aren't. They are Danbury children. Secondly, the best thing that fits, I think, is the old expression, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You're going to spend you don't spend that $750,000, you're going to spend 2 times, 3 times, 4 times that amount of money curing the problem when they're in junior high school or high school.
But we don't have that money now.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you
We
do.
don't have textbooks in our schools. We don't have a lot of resources.
I understand. And
$750,000.
what we have done as a partnership over the years is that we make sure we fight for your budget. We make sure that if you fight for our help that we need for the Head Start program, we turn around and fight for your budget with the city of Danbury, with the state of Connecticut, with wherever we need to go to make sure that that happens.
Joyce?
Yes.
There's no easy answers here, and that's the dilemma. I'll make the recommendation to the board, and the board will have to make a decision. But in terms of identification in our program for youngsters with special needs, given the fact that we were to reduce the number of students that would receive services, in fact, this comes to fruition. The 10%, which is arbitrary, but our number of identification is about 11% that we report to the state. And we've kept it there. And I will tell you that 11% is substantially lower than many other districts around the state. Our placement, our outplacement is much lower. If we place students out, the expenses run anywhere between $30,000 to $110,000, $125,000. 6, 7 children, and I'm not saying there's a one-to-one correlation, but our lens has to be not only on the child's best interest, which clearly all of us think it's the best thing, but if I'm looking at it from financially and you all, in terms of identification of excess of that is going to begin costing us quite a bit more money. Is that something that's accurate or not, or how do you see that from your standpoint?
I mean, certainly, all the research is very clear. It's very powerful. Early intervention does make a difference in terms of future referrals to special education. I mean, do we gather any statistics in terms of our identification of young children? How many received Head Start? health, experiences or not. We don't, Sal. So I couldn't say it's a one-to-one correlation. And that's why I asked the question number one, because people asked it of me and sitting in the audience the other night. And the other piece, and I guess probably what everybody struggles with, is there a way of being able to do this for somewhat less money? And so that's why I talk worst possible scenario. If you cut the entire, whatever the Board of Ed chunk is, does that mean, how many extra seats does it mean? That very black and white kind of thing. But absolutely, Sal, I mean, we all know early intervention is extraordinarily helpful, and obviously if it wasn't for these kind of budget times, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It's not like any board member or anybody wants to cut services to any child. Everybody acknowledges that these are our children that are going to enter our school district, and it's the same struggle we have at Cabinet,
I'm going to go to Bob in a second, but on the top of everything, everybody needs to keep in their mind that we are a district with an achievement gap. It's a major issue. So I know there's Bill and more has worked at it. But Bill, you had your hand up, then Bob, and then Tom, and then Kathy. Let's go that way. Okay, go. Bill, Tom, Kathy, and then...
Let me hold my points because it ties into this tangentially. There's another issue that's been asked for. We've been asked for clarity on the $350,000 with the safe harbor interventionists and the school improvement piece, which ties directly into this. But let me, while we're on this topic, why don't we just continue talking about the topic, and then I'll come back and you'll see how the two dovetail. So I don't know who's pointing to next.
Okay, the thing that we as the Board of Education, the City of Danbury, gain, of course, so we have a symbiotic relationship with these preschool programs and the rest of the programs. We have a flow that goes and a melding that exists that I fear we're going to lose, and that will impact the quality of the Head Start program for all the young people involved. Also, as a board member, we have made our plans our 5-year goals. And one of the major goals, of course, is in line with the state goals and so forth, closing the achievement gap. We have a program here that works because of the support and the symbiotic relationship between the Head Start and the Danbury school system. And I fear that it's going to be lost. I also fear that I don't see that if we don't keep up our contributions, I don't see the same, maybe I'm wrong, I don't see the same number of students being served. So I'll be honest with you, I will not vote personally for any program that cuts this off. You can put it in the budget, maybe in the minority, but the thing is, I'm not going to commit to something where I think we're cutting our own throats.
I have a question.
Remember, today's dialogue. There's no voting.
Okay.
We're not here to do any of that. Especially with
I've
the
gone
other
over this in
room.
my mind so much, and I'll be honest with you, can I make one other point? The City of Danbury can if they want to pay. I honestly believe that.
I just have a very simple question. When you move to your new building,
Yes, ma'am.
will we still be supporting?
Yes, you will, but that, it's a simple question, but it has a little bit more complicated answer. What we have...
It always does, Jim.
I know. What we proposed is, in effect, a phase down, not a phase out, but a phase down
Okay.
of the Board of Education support for the Head Start program, because we think, let me give you an example. This is a current example. This is on the table right now. Okay, we have a Board of Ed Head Start teacher who in your nomenclature is, Cara, what is it called technically?
It's considered an assistant teacher.
An assistant teacher in the board's nomenclature. So it's a non-certified position. Okay. That person is retiring. The costs that you guys pay for is enough that if we did it, we would hire a certified teacher, which the feds are pushing us to do, and maybe have a little money left over. Okay? So we're saying let's phase it down, not out, but down. And if you work with us over the long term, we can do that very substantially.
I know, but you're gonna be in your own building, so right
No,
now.
I'm not. We're gonna be in another city at Danbury, but it's not our building.
It won't come out of our operation.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, yeah,
We
right.
won't pay your light bill.
That's true, that's
The
true.
in-kind
I think it's what
services
she
that
means.
we give you today.
Yes,
Will be far less because we won't be paying for your heating, your lighting.
that's correct.
Right,
That's correct, that's
But
correct.
if I can just to touch on something you just said, the other thing that I think we all need to be mindful of is that we're talking about a phase down because there are collective bargaining issues with moving people from one place to another. So that's why we couldn't just do it all in one chunk, I don't believe, but this phase down idea is something that we're working on.
And what do you think the savings would be year one for us?
Well, it depends on how much phasing we do.
Well,
I mean,
say we
the
phase-
average, these are actually people in our paraprofessionals unit.
Right.
So their average
They're
pay
making
is
between like $22,000 and $30,000.
Do they receive benefits?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
they do.
So,
Well, that's what they're
but I just listened to what Jim
Right.
said. Jim didn't, here's what Jim just said. If we're able to transition folks into your organization, then the money I pay for X person that would go to your organization, you can get a more qualified individual, and there might be a little money left over. Which is not to say that, you know, I'm gonna send it over, and let's say it's a $60,000 ticket.
I understand.
Right, then I could say that of the 60,000, I'm gonna get 25 back. That's not what I'm saying. So I don't wanna mislead anyone here about that. So that's gotta be
And I
clear.
think the significance of it too is it's not just the cost, it's that we're talking about different criteria and qualifications for these people that are not necessarily the ones that they currently hold. And that's why we're talking about a shift of an entire category of people.
Kim, there's also, as you know best, there's also a different cost, which is that if you were to hire the replacement, for example, for the person that is leaving, even if you didn't hire at the certified level, you had hired at the uncertified level, you're gonna have legacy costs in terms of your pension program and everything else that will add to your budget forever. Whereas if we can move these individuals as these circumstances allow us to, as they occur, then you have costs that are foreborn. You never encountered them.
I'm sorry to interrupt, this is a key question for me. Are the folks that are there not in the municipal,
They're in the SEIU.
But they're in
okay,
the pension.
they're in the city, now, because we gave how much last year?
$1 million.
Part of our appropriation last year, I don't know if everybody realized that, because of the investment in Mark, we were down $1 million. So doing this reduces our participation,
It has a very
Right,
broad scope.
the actuaries will do another actuarial study.
which improves our financial, well, in a way that does help.
But Sal, you remember last year when we did our budget, we decided that's how freshman sports got impacted, was because we said everybody was feeling pain. We never go after sports, and we said, okay, let's say we have to go to the sports people and say,
Help
you
us
have
out.
to suffer by 10%. You know, where is the least impact? And they are the ones that came up with, okay, we'll delete professional sports. So on that same note, do we go to Head Start and say, you have to feel the pain too?
Last year, we reduced, was it 50,000? Was it?
About-
We used to have a floater for every classroom, so slowly but surely we've been cutting back.
Well, I think that's, remember, we're working our recommendations through everything. And today is just a conversation. What I asked Jim to do today was, which is educating all of us about, you know, what if, as Joyce said, you know, what if? And if I reduce it last year when we reduced to 50, you reduced a person in the classroom? Is that what you did?
We didn't reduce faculty, we reduced the program assistants. So, and one of the reasons we were able to do that is because in prior years, the Head Start classrooms were scattered all around the city.
So when we put them
If you
together.
put them together, you don't need quite as much support staff. So we eliminated roughly half of the program aides and saved.
So this year,
Yeah.
just so we get it, because I know if I cut so much from this, what it's going, I don't know what it impacts you. So let's say you reduce 10%, thereabouts, our contribution, $70,000.
Right.
What impact are we talking, so everybody can hear it?
It depends on two things. If you are, it depends on how you do it. And for
Define how to
example,
do it.
no, I'm saying, if, for example, if we're taking an existing Board of Ed person and making them a civic person, that's maybe a different impact. If you just took 70,000 off, I'd have to consult obviously with Monica and Cara, but would try to find $70,000. But probably it means getting probably rid of all the other program aides. I mean, that's for openers. You know, I don't know what else.
Yeah, and I would argue back, like, we would have to try to find that money somewhere else.
that's right.
It would be very difficult for us to operate without that.
When people say fine, I understand what fine means. I get that. So within the budget that you have to reallocate money so you meet the criteria.
Correct.
For funding. And if you're reduced, that's where you're at. We're at the point when we reduce, it's almost a program reduction. We did last year. You're not necessarily totally at that point, is what I'm hearing. Is that accurate or
Well,
not?
it's all symbiotic. I mean, you can't just cut one piece, or else you don't meet all the federal performance standards, and you can't run that way.
No, I understand that. And I don't want to back you in the corner because I'm trying to be transparent so everybody knows. Because what will happen is, let's say we cut you 100,000. I'm not saying we are. 200,000. I don't know. And then the program doesn't change because that's criticism we get. Hey Sal, you keep telling us you cut. We don't see it. Why are you hiring people? Well, if you go and see the electives at the high school, the material at the high school, teachers buying all the material, the middle school, technology. You know, it started in person this morning. How come the website isn't? You know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
People start realizing.
Right.
Are they going to see something, obvious? Maybe not next year. I don't know. That's why.
Well, let me give you an
That was the question I was
example.
trying to
Let me give you an example. Again, let's go back to the $50,000. What we might do is, if we had a vacancy in the family advocate jobs, Monica already said they have very high caseloads. We may make them higher. We eliminate a position over there because obviously we got to keep our classroom staff at the statutory minimum.
Well, what I wanted to say is we can't serve any less children is what I would argue to Jim.
I'm sorry,
We
Monica.
can't serve any less children. Our waiting list is expansive.
Yeah.
People are knocking on our doors. So I would say we can't cut children. What does that mean? We have to cut other staff. Do we cut one of our management team? I mean, we have a disabilities manager. We have over 40 children in our program with special needs. So how do we argue to cut them?
No,
or our health manager.
In our case, for example, when freshman sports, which is, and there was reasons why that was selected because the board felt they could have those kids could participate. But when the parents talked to me, why didn't you tell us sooner? Maybe we could do a code participant pay, which some communities don't. Does the opportunity exist within yours to do a sliding fee charge that we don't access? Okay, so that's okay. I just want to make sure everybody hears that. So you're not permitted to levy a fee.
No. Again, I tried to be clear Monday. What we do is we do operate extra hours. In other words, the federal government requires us to operate a minimum number of hours. Working with the state, we operate additional hours because many of our people are obviously working parents, and having a child in preschool half a day isn't very effective. Okay, so for that supplemental hours, which the board pays nothing towards, okay, right? We are allowed, because it's technically not Head Start, it's Care for Kids program. We do have a sliding fee scale for those supplemental hours.
So that.
Right. So if you hear people are paying for Head Start, they're not. They're paying for the supplemental hours.
But those kids don't go elsewhere, so they're still under the teachers, they're still in the classroom.
No, but we're paying for that. The Board of Ed pays nothing for that extra time.
And staff.
So the allotment you get from the federal government, that was the 800,000 or whatever that amount is, does attached to that 800,000, is there a requirement that you serve X number of children?
Yes, there is.
Regardless of our input?
Yeah, right. And we would have to go back and renegotiate that. If you were saying to us, you're gonna close 7 classrooms, we'd have to go back to the board, we'd have to go back to the feds and renegotiate.
So, and I think too, like if you're looking at visible outcomes of what closing 7 classrooms or not serving 140 children, you're looking at long-term achievement gap issues that cost a lot of money. I just want you to envision what kindergarten registration is going to look like, because our families don't go elsewhere because they can't afford it. So you're having 80% of our kids who don't speak English and now have had no access to English language learning, who have not been we monitor 40 kids with special needs. They're showing up at your door on kindergarten registration with no preschool experience. They go to KIF and kin providers. We've done a ton of outreach and with the school readiness, other programs to look at and bring those kids out of other people's homes. I mean, they can't afford to send their kids other places. So they're gonna come to you without the English language, without the 2 years that they've had with us. We track their English language proficiency. We plan for that. You know, we have a lot of interaction with the ESL Center now. I mean, we're planning for these things, and they're gonna show up at your door, and you do not have the bilingual support available for these kids. You are gonna have to put funding into that.
For the board's understanding, and Bill and I go at this all the time, we're about 18 staff short on bilingual.
Yeah,
Just so
it's
the
gonna
board
work.
gets this. The only reason why we're able to operate the way we are for the past, I think it's 8 years, Bill, or 10 years, is that we've gone to a collection centers, some magnet programs, which technically meets the law, but inherently we both do not believe it's doing the just job. When I talk to some kindergarten parent teachers, you know, we all understand what's going on there with that for the kindergarten. We removed all of our aides. There are kids in there not potty trained.
Yeah.
There are kids in there that can't, I mean, you know, the level of what's going on. And there are, I will say, God bless those parents that come in and help and do it. That has been, I don't know what those people would do. Maura, you're there more
So
often
I was just
than
going to
I
say,
am.
I do need to jump in on
You
your
need-
point.
You know, that's what, just so you know, I need to let the board understand, please, what is going on, who's coming in, even after that funnel.
Even after 2 years.
So everybody gets what's going on. These are not, you know, kids that can understand the routines of school.
I'm sitting here as I'm a Danbury Public employee. I've been in education, Danbury for 18 years, but I'm also a parent of 3 children in the Danbury Public Schools who didn't have to go through Head Start. I'm you know, a pretty lucky parent in that way, but I've had kids come through my class who were either in Head Start or typical. I was an early educator for 14 years, and I'm a math specialist now. I don't have any more children who will go through the kindergarten program, but I have to tell you, you're killing our early education program. I understand it's $715,000, but I agree with so much of what has been said. Ounce of prevention, way more than a pound of the cure, because if you walk into, just like Sal said, I'm at Stanley Rough School now, right? We have 4 kindergarten classrooms. No one has an aide. There are better than 20 in every single class. There are special needs in there that we can't get to or haven't been picked up early enough. So now we're fighting the battle. And I understand, my son's in high school, I understand the textbook deal. But I've done so much research. I came through the doctoral program at WestCon. The amount of research on early intervention, if kids don't close that gap by 1st grade, I think it's over 60% of them never do. So are we being, you know, what is it, penny wise, dollar foolish in saying it's $750,000? It is a hill I'm willing to die on as an educator, because I've seen it and I watched these kids go through. I'm one of the people who got up before the new board was elected and said, please walk into a kindergarten classroom right now. Look what you've done. I have so many. The amount of respect I have for kindergarten teachers is insurmountable, because you walk in there and you look at what they're doing. Not only that, and your statistics here are closing the gap in what they do age level wise is unbelievable, because now if you look at Common Core, what Common Core state standards are going to require kindergartners to do, I'm a math specialist, and I know the amount of number sense and the amount of, you know, just language that those kids need, the socialization that your program provides. And like I said, we're cutting back and cutting back. We have fewer personnel resources, higher expectations in kindergarten. If we can't get them to read in K1 and 2, they're not going to read the textbooks in high school. And I have high school teachers and middle school teachers who are saying we need the support there. So that's my hill to die on. Thanks.
Okay.
I got two things. I get to see two things. Because you reminded me of, I heard Congressman Maloney say the same thing you did, which is essentially.
You become a congressman again?
I thought once you're a congressman.
Give me some bucks.
Oh, I say, once you're a felon, you're always a felon.
But what I heard you say is that the private sector in you can hire a more qualified person.
Yes, sir.
For less money.
Yes, sir.
Than the Danbury Public Schools
That's correct.
District.
That's correct.
Okay, now, is that telling anybody any thing with why we're in such deep problems? If we got 2,000 employees and it's costing us more than it would cost the private sector, that's telling me a whole lot about why we have a budget problem for starters. Second point that I was trying to make before that is I hear everything about childhood education, early Head Start. What I hear all the time from my social circles is, we don't let kids be kids anymore. I mean, when I was in kindergarten, I majored in sandbox, you know, and you had your blankie and your milk and cookies, and you didn't learn anything until first grade. Now we got to teach them something in kindergarten. Now we got to teach them something in pre-kindergarten. And what I'm hearing is, that's why we have so many head cases in high school now. We didn't have people running around with guns blowing away the whole
We've
school.
requested he stop going to parties.
Yeah.
Stop hanging around with those guys.
So there's some sort of a trade-off here. Are we
Well,
pushing
yeah,
these
but
kids too early because we want them all to be Einstein and they're not kids anymore?
I think I'd like Cara to respond to that, because that's really an educational question.
And I think that there's no denying as a elementary education educator and an early childhood educator, I agree with you that a lot of our standards aren't developmentally appropriate for the age level of the child. But it's just unfortunately reality that these are state standards that are given and decided at a federal and state level that we have to comply with, or that our districts are not going to see as meeting standards, and we will be a failing school district. So unfortunately, the decision precedes us, and then we have to accommodate ourselves. And I think it was said so eloquently by an educator in the Danbury Public School System that what visibly besides all of these other things is going to be, my daughter was in kindergarten in Danbury Public Schools, and the attention goes to the kids who need the most. The teacher doesn't get to the middle and higher level children because she has to pull the bottom of the classroom to the middle by the end of the year and show growth in the year. So my daughter, who went in reading to kindergarten, didn't get any attention because she was fine. And so they become the focus of the classroom because there's no choice. I got 15 interventions before school started from Family and Children's Aid with kids with psychiatric issues. 15 before we started school. I was doing Connor scales for ADHD and doing all these things. These kids are going to come to you with behavioral problems like you have not seen. We do high-level behavioral interventions at 3 and 5 years old so they can even function in a kindergarten classroom. If those kids, whether it's 140 kids or not, those kids are going to come to you, and it's going to affect every child in that classroom. We monitor and support data and screening for years, especially dual language learner for your special needs and for identification and classification of children. I work very closely with Deb Nolan and Franti Lukey and looking at early intervention and screening, and give data to say, this is what's happening in our classroom over an entire year. Let's look at dual language development. Do we think it's a silent period for their language development? Do we think it's a cognitive delay? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here that if you pull that intervention, even though it's only 7 classrooms, think about how many kids that becomes in your kindergarten classroom that aren't going to get served. You don't have the bilingual support, you don't have paraeducators in there, and then all of a sudden your kindergarten teacher, I promise you, is going to be dedicated to the children who don't speak English and who have behavioral problems in your room. And other kids are not going to learn in the same way.
I want to spend one, yeah, I will, but then I want to talk about some of the other things I have too, so we spend more time than we thought.
I just want to say, as I appreciate you've been in existence for 30 years and you do, you know, those 140 kids, our high school failure rate is horrific. So although you say this intervention, and I believe you, is critical at that age, we're failing our kids all along the way then. And that's, you know, that's a part of the problem. Is it our system? Is it how we're approaching it? Is it, so, you know, I mean, I look at it from a mom with a child who's older, and I see what's going on in the high school, and it is scary. So while you're giving intervention to these 140 kids at this age, but something's going wrong because we have a huge failure rate in high school.
So, and the research is, if you look at, I mean, just this morning on CNN, if you're looking at what Princeton University is just coming out with a new study, Crawl Till 12, and if you're looking at how kids and predictability of school success, you're looking at what amount of vocabulary and words that they're hearing by the age of 3 is predicting their function in 3rd grade. That reading level in 3rd grade predicts their functioning level when they're a sophomore in high school. So, I mean, it's bottom up. I mean, if you cut in the bottom, you're going to see even worse outcomes. I mean, and it's just, we're moving counterintuitively to what's happening nationwide. Everybody's saying, go younger, go younger, go younger. Everything will change at the top if you start at the bottom. I understand you need the intervention at every level now, but if we change what's happening at the bottom, certainly it's going to worsen at the top.
But you've been here for doing this for 30 years
Sure.
at this level.
So imagine
well, yeah,
what
but Head Start
imagine
Head Start is 10% of the kids in the high school.
But imagine
You know,
what
it's
it'd be
like-
like
But
if
that's
we're
our
in there.
dilemma.
Sure,
We have
absolutely.
over 10,000 that we have to.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we have found, and Bill was back there, that, you know, you do work with the top down. I mean, we have been, the K-5 has been reforming itself longer than our secondary. And the work that's being done in K-5 has been much more rigorous. I can only comment the last 6 years, I'm sure before that. Middle of high school had not. And that has been one of the, when we had a group come in Cambridge look at us. And, you know, I mean, to say it bluntly, there was just the curriculum just wasn't at the level to challenge all kids. It was relegated to kids. And some kids were having experiences that were not legitimate and moved through the system. Now, you know, I keep hearing, and I read George Wilton. Okay, I see that and I listen to that. And there's a thing going on there now, you know, we did some detracting stuff. And you know, unfortunately, a group of kids are being affected. But what's happening is that the rigor is increasing there. The rigor is increasing at kindergarten for that purpose. It's at middle school and it's at high school. And there are youngsters now being held at a different standard, and that's causing challenges for us. And we're trying to get support there. But I think eventually, you know, if we do this thing right, and that's, you know, from offering the top level of accelerated work in the APs, that our curriculum now is adjusted up rather than down. And all kids are having common experiences. We should be getting better at, when I get a grade of C, or if I get a grade of A, it's a standard across in terms of expectations. I don't transfer out and say, and which we did get. I was getting A's there, and I go there, and my kid's not even able to keep up. Not everyone, I can't say, you know, but, so that's, you know, that's moved us to a point where our high school's been failing, our middle school's been failing. Our elementaries were failing, but like I said, they're getting up to snuff, as per se. Our middle school is still working at it, you know, we've reduced being on the list. The high school's still on that list, and we'll see what happens. Even if NCLB goes away, the onerous part of it goes away, identifying the school, but we still have what they call the Cali system and the achievement gap, so we're gonna have to do more things. That's why I meant to say, you notice in the paper we're getting more money. Some of that was based on the number of kids that qualified for Husky, which was interesting. Second was the achievement gap that we've experienced. And we're one of the few districts that doesn't have full-day kindergarten, at least the cities. So, you know, someone said to me, for example, if we took the $700,000 and just put it full-day kindergarten, what would happen there? Would that make us any better? Even if you had space. I mean, that's another conversation, obviously. But anyway, that's what's happening across the district, and it's coming down on certain kids, there's no doubt, because they're just not as capable at this point, and they'll be more and more capable as we go. And the teachers are teaching different. There's no secondary teachers here, I know. I think they would have to speak.
But the conversations, though, I think, Sal, that are happening between elementary and middle, and then again, and I know we've also Kara Casimiro, the conversations that she's had. high school and middle school teachers have. I mean, change is hard, and it's a slow process. But I think the communication we now actually have that has started going vertically, you don't see the results till X number of years out, and we're just on the cusp of starting that communication piece with all the changes.
And Danbury, I'm going to move on. Danbury is not the only one in this situation. The slowest group to change throughout the nation has been high school. Correct? I mean, the evidence is that middle schools have changed, the elementaries have taken it on, the high schools have been they've been the iceberg, per se. So I want to move into the next thing, please, if you spend a few minutes, because I have folks here with the athletics and stuff, right?
Oh, I wasn't even coming to talk about any of that.
No, but you were part of that group,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
What one of the things the board looked at, as Kathy said, was looking at the reductions and the pay-to-pay options, and that's on our list for possibilities of things to do. Just so the board gets what we actually pay, here the way it breaks down. We have about in stipends for sports, co-curricular, and for the clubs, around $210,000, thereabouts. We have in supplies, and I'm not sure what the supplies for the non-athletics. For athletics and for all their officials and those kinds of operations, about $210,000. Pretty much the rest of it goes for transportation, and that varies if kids get some playoffs and if they have games further, they have to get different kinds of. But it's about $750,000 thereabouts. Is that about right?
Totally.
So yeah, that's total. Yeah, that's totally. And folks will say, well, you can get people to volunteer. Well, the certifications.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Rory Duraco with the Danbury Police Department. We're asking you to please refrain from using your handheld electronic device while operating your motor vehicle. This has caused citizens property damage, personal injury, and loss of life. So please, when you're operating your motor vehicle, keep your hands on the wheel, your eyes on the road, not on your phone. Thank you.